the real story of the Thing. He has no face, no voice, and no body. Yet he commands more loyalty than kings, serves with more devotion than saints, and has been keeping secrets for nearly a century. Tonight, we descend into the shadows to uncover the twisted tale of Thing T Thing, a mystery wrapped in flesh, hidden in plain sight, crawling through the darkest corners of American pop culture since the days when the dead walked only in nightmares. Welcome, dear viewers, to a story most deliciously macabre that begins not with a hand at all, but with something far more sinister. Our tale creeps forth from the graveyards of Westfield, New Jersey, where in 1912, a peculiar child named Charles Samuel Addams spent his afternoons among the tombstones, sketching the faces he imagined beneath the earth. Young Chaz would trespass on the property of a nearby Victorian house, the very mansion that would later become the Addams Family estate, letting his imagination run wild with the horrors that might dwell within. By day, Addams worked one of the most morbidly fitting jobs in 1930s New York, retouching crime scene photographs for True Detective magazine, removing blood and gore from corpse photos like some sort of artistic undertaker. By night, he crafted cartoons that would haunt the pages of The New Yorker for decades to come. On August 6, 1938, Addams unleashed his first Addams Family cartoon upon an unsuspecting world. But the Thing of these early days was no mere disembodied hand. He was something far more mysterious, an entity described as too horrifying to be seen by human eyes, a creature of unknown origin who watched the household through slightly open doors, around corners, and from beneath windowsills. According to Charles Addams himself, Thing was often observed watching the family through the balustrades of the balcony over the living room. We don't know quite who or what he is, but whatever. He's the soul of good nature. At least he grins perpetually and may occasionally whimper. The inspiration for this mysterious entity came from Phil Harris's 1950 novelty song, The Thing, a tale about a cursed box that brought doom to all who possessed it. How perfectly fitting that Thing would emerge from a song about an object too terrible to describe. So what happened? How did this terrifying, multi-limbed creature become just a hand? Well, television would soon demand something more practical. And that's when Thing really crawled into the spotlight. When producer David Levy decided to bring Charles Addams' cartoons to television in 1964, he faced a peculiar problem. How do you bring an unknowable, possibly multi-limbed creature to life on a limited TV budget? The solution was as ingenious as it was macabre. Thing would become a disembodied hand. The 1964 television series greatly expanded Thing's role compared to the cartoons, retconning him as a disembodied forearm that would emerge from boxes in each room of the Addams mansion. This transformation required the talents of Ted Cassidy, a towering giant standing 6 feet 9 inches tall, who would become both Lurch the butler and Thing the hand. The technical challenges were delightfully absurd. Cassidy would lie flat on his back on a wheeled trolley, hidden below camera sightlines, threading his massive arm through specially constructed boxes in each room. The poor man was essentially playing a contortionist act for every Thing scene, sprawled under tables and furniture while audiences only saw his elegant hand movements above. Around these times, Thing was usually a right hand, but Cassidy would sometimes play him as a left hand, simply to see if anyone would notice. But what about those scenes where both Lurch and Thing appeared together? The production had backup plans. Thing would be played by a crew member, notably assistant director Jack Vogelin. Thing even earned his own credit at the end of each episode, listed as itself, a touch of dignity for a character who was, quite literally, just somebody's hand. The show's creators worked with Charles Addams to establish Thing's full name as Thing T Thing, the middle T standing for, naturally, Thing. This version developed an entire personality through pure gesture. He fetched mail, lit Gomez's cigars, changed television channels, held Morticia's wool while she knitted, and could transform grapes into wine in under 60 seconds. He rode in the family's glove compartment during drives, and once emerged from Gomez's briefcase during a court appearance. But what was Thing's relationship to the family? Even in the 1960s, the show hinted at deeper mysteries. A flashback episode revealed that Thing had been with the Addams family since Gomez was a child, suggesting that he was the son of an earlier generation of hand servants. Hand servants? What kind of supernatural lineage were we dealing with here? The show even introduced other mysterious hands. Ladyfingers, a feminine handmaiden who served Princess Millicent von Schlepp and fell in love with Thing, and Esmeralda, a dishonest replacement with jeweled, black-pointed fingernails. In the episode Thing is Missing, viewers glimpsed a portrait of Thing's parents. Simply two hands holding each other, suggesting an entire civilization of sentient appendages. But Thing's story was far from over. The 1990s would give him legs, or rather, fingertips. The year was 1991, and Thing was about to run wild. When director Barry Sonnenfeld brought the Addams Family to the big screen, advances in special effects allowed Thing to evolve beyond his television box. Thanks to practical effects and clever choreography, Thing could now emerge and run on his fingertips, much like a spider. He could even drive cars and perform death-defying rescues. The man behind this transformation was Christopher Hart, a Canadian actor and magician born in Nanaimo, British Columbia. Hart's casting wasn't accidental. They were looking for mimes, puppeteers, magicians, people who work with their hands. When Hart auditioned, the casting directors asked him to show his hand expressing different emotions: happy, sad, nervous, sleepy. They also tested his claustrophobia tolerance, a crucial requirement for an actor who would spend most of his time hidden under tables and sets. His very first scene was the chess game with Gomez and Morticia, and it just about broke him. They stuck him under a table with this tiny video monitor, and his job was to move the chess pieces, basically like running one of those claw machines at a carnival, but without any depth perception. Then in walked the A-listers: Angelica Houston as Morticia, Raul Julia as Gomez. And meanwhile, the blood's rushing out of his hand. It's going tingly, and he's sweating bullets under there. But Hart's magic background proved invaluable. As a magician since childhood, he understood how to make inanimate objects seem alive through subtle movements and timing. He brought a new dimension to Thing: wit, personality, and genuine comic timing that made audiences forget they were watching just a hand. The script would just say stuff like, Thing scampers to the floor, Thing runs along the street. No dialogue, nothing fancy, but he wanted to make it as interesting as possible. And he nailed it so well that he ended up playing Thing in 3 movies back to back: The Addams Family in '91, Addams Family Values in '93, and even the direct-to-video Addams Family Reunion in '98. Interestingly, the films expanded Thing's role beyond household helper. In Addams Family Values, Thing is shown driving a car into Debbie to rescue Uncle Fester, a far cry from his box-bound television origins. The movies gave Thing agency, heroism, and a clear emotional connection to the family that went beyond mere servitude. But even Hart admits the role wasn't all fun and games. He was actually kind of shocked, like in a weird way, that nobody did anything to protect his hand or take care of it. Nothing. He had to cut his own nails. The guy playing one of the most famous hands in cinema had to handle his own hand care. Kind of a deliciously ironic detail, if you ask me. Hart's performance was so iconic that he really became a legit movie star. He'd be at a party with friends, and then their families would show up and be like, "Oh, you're Thing!" He had pulled off something completely unheard of, becoming famous for just a body part. But the most significant chapter in Thing's story was yet to be written. And it's maybe thanks to this man, Tim Burton. Tim Burton's Wednesday series brought Thing into the 21st century and finally dared to answer the question everyone had been asking for decades. Who was Thing before he became Thing? Romanian actor Victor Dorobantu portrayed Thing using a combination of practical effects and digital wizardry. Rather than CGI, he wore a blue chroma key suit and prosthetic stump. Post-production removed his body to isolate the hand, while prosthetics gave Thing a macabre, stitched appearance. Now, the stitches, these weren't just for aesthetics. They hinted at a darker history that the show would eventually reveal. In Wednesday, Thing developed deeper emotional relationships, particularly with Wednesday herself and her roommate Enid Sinclair. He attended support groups, felt jealousy, and struggled with questions about his identity. But the biggest revelation was yet to come. Now, dear viewers, we must pause for a moment. What follows contains major spoilers for Netflix's Wednesday Season 2. If you haven't yet witnessed the shocking truth about Thing's origins, you may want to experience it firsthand before continuing. For those brave enough to proceed, prepare yourself. In the second season of Wednesday, creators Alfred Goff and Miles Miller finally answered the question that had haunted fans for decades. Where did Thing actually come from? And the answer was more twisted than anyone expected. Thing was revealed to be the severed right hand of Isaac Knight, a former Nevermore Academy student who had been Gomez's roommate and best friend. During a deadly experiment gone wrong, Morticia sliced off Isaac's hand in self-defense when he tried to kill Gomez. They buried Isaac in a grave meant for Gomez, while his severed hand developed its own sentience, becoming the Thing we know and love. The anagram was there all along. Thing equals Knight. The Wednesday Season 2 finale brings this century-spanning story full circle in the most dramatic way possible. When Isaac Knight is resurrected as a zombie, thanks to some accidental necromancy by Pugsley, he seeks to reclaim what was stolen from him, including his hand. Isaac then reveals that Thing is his missing right hand, which Morticia Addams cut off when Isaac tricked Gomez Addams into powering the machine. In a disturbing scene, Isaac forcibly reattaches Thing to his body, temporarily robbing Thing of his independent will and forcing him to serve his original owner. But Thing's loyalty to the Addams family runs deeper than mere biological connection. After Isaac forcibly stitched Thing back to his body, his sentience was denied, and he was forced to turn against Addams, his true family. When Isaac threatens Wednesday's life, Thing makes the ultimate choice. It breaks free, killing Isaac by removing his mechanical heart and remaining with his chosen family. So there we have it, Netflix's answer to the century-old mystery. Thing is Isaac Knight's severed hand, animated by electrical trauma and torn between his biological past and chosen family. A neat explanation wrapped up with a bow. Or is it? What about ladyfingers? What about Esmeralda? What about those portraits of Thing's supposed handparents from the 1960s? If Thing is Isaac's hand, then who are all these other sentient appendages throughout Addams family history? Perhaps Isaac Knight was just one victim in a much larger universe. Perhaps there are graveyards full of severed hands, waiting for the right electrical storm to bring them back to life. The hand may have chosen his family, but the mystery keeps crawling.